The CIA's Guru Rinpoche mission, a comprehensive investigation. The Guru Rinpoche mission represents one of the most extraordinary and consequential covert operations of the Cold War era, involving a joint collaboration between the United States Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, and India's Intelligence Bureau, IB, to establish nuclear-powered surveillance capabilities in the Himalaya. This classified operation, conducted between 1965–1968, aimed to monitor China's emerging nuclear program through the deployment of plutonium-powered listening devices on some of the world's highest peaks, ultimately resulting in the loss of a radioactive device that remains missing to this day. The genesis of the Guru Rinpoche mission can be traced to the escalating tensions of the Cold War and China's emergence as a nuclear power. On October 16, 1964, the People's Republic of China successfully detonated its first nuclear device at Lop Nor in Xinjiang province, fundamentally altering the strategic balance in Asia. This nuclear test came just 2 years after China's decisive victory over India in the 1962 Sino-Indian War, creating profound security concerns for both India and the United States. The timing was particularly significant as it occurred during the height of Cold War paranoia, when both superpowers were engaged in an intense nuclear arms race and intelligence gathering became paramount. The United States, already embroiled in the Vietnam War and concerned about Chinese nuclear capabilities, desperately needed closer access to intelligence on China's nuclear and missile testing programs. The mission's conceptual origins trace back to an unlikely source: a casual conversation at a Washington, D.C. cocktail party in 1964 between Barry Bishop, a renowned American mountaineer and National Geographic photographer, and General Curtis LeMay, the U.S. Air Force Chief of Staff. Bishop, who had been part of the first American team to summit Mount Everest in 1963, described to LeMay the unobstructed views of Chinese territory available from Himalayan peaks. LeMay, known for his aggressive nuclear strategies and controversial military tactics, immediately grasped the intelligence potential of this geographical advantage. As Pete Take notes in his extensive research, LeMay was confident that Bishop was the right person to help develop a clandestine surveillance operation. This casual exchange would evolve into one of the CIA's most ambitious and ultimately problematic covert operations. The 1962 Sino-Indian War had fundamentally altered India's strategic calculations and opened the door for unprecedented intelligence cooperation with the United States. India's crushing defeat by China shattered Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru's faith in the communist bloc and created an opportunity for the CIA to establish a foothold in the subcontinent. This strategic shift led to the creation of several joint intelligence initiatives, including the Aviation Research Center ARC and the Special Frontier Force SFF, both established under the oversight of Rameshwar Nath Kao, who would later become the founding chief of India's Research and Analysis Wing R&A. The ARC, formally created on September 7, 1963, with Kao as director, became the product of an intelligence cooperation agreement between India and the U.S. in the immediate aftermath of the 1962 war. The operation brought together an extraordinary cast of characters from both countries. On the Indian side, the mission was overseen by R.N. Kao, then heading the Aviation Research Center, and executed by Captain Manmohan Singh Kohli, the naval officer who had just led India's first successful Everest expedition in May 1965. Kohli, described by the Indian Navy as a pioneer of adventure training and a national icon who shaped the mountaineering ethos of the armed forces, was recruited immediately upon his return from Everest. The American contingent was led by Barry Bishop and included several CIA operatives working under aliases. The joint nature of the operation reflected the careful balance both countries sought to maintain. India wanted to monitor China's nuclear activities, while the U.S. needed access to strategic locations along the Himalayan frontier. The centerpiece of the operation was a sophisticated nuclear-powered surveillance system known as SNAP-19C, System for Nuclear Auxiliary Power. This device, described as an oven-sized metal bin with 5 radiating fins, weighing 125 pounds, 57 kilograms, was topped by a 6-foot antenna and powered by 7 plutonium-238 capsules. The plutonium-238 core was designed to provide continuous power for decades without maintenance, making it ideal for the harsh, inaccessible conditions of high-altitude deployment. The device included 4 transceivers to relay information to base stations in India and sophisticated electronics to intercept radio communications, seismic data, and radiological signatures from Chinese nuclear tests. The primary mission objectives were comprehensive: to monitor China's nuclear test activities at Lop Nor, intercept communications between Chinese nuclear personnel, collect seismic and radiological data from nuclear explosions, and track missile launches and developments. The device was intended to operate autonomously for years, providing real-time intelligence on China's rapidly advancing nuclear and missile programs. The strategic importance of this intelligence cannot be overstated. In the pre-satellite era of the mid-1960s, such close proximity surveillance represented one of the few ways to gather detailed technical intelligence on Chinese nuclear capabilities. The data collected would inform U.S. nuclear strategy and provide India with crucial insights into its neighbors' military developments. Following Kohli's recruitment in June 1965, the joint team underwent intensive training at Elmendorf Air Force Base in Alaska, where they practiced on Mount McKinley. The training was overseen by Barry Bishop and included both American CIA operatives and Indian mountaineers, many of whom had participated in the successful Everest expedition just months earlier. The team composition reflected the mission's complexity. It included ITBP officers Sonam Jayatsa, Harish Rawat, Sonam Wanjil, and Gurcharan Singh Bangu, along with elite Sherpas and CIA operatives. The original plan called for installation on Kanchenjunga, the world's 3rd highest peak, but this was deemed too dangerous and technically challenging. By September 1965, the team had decided on Nanda Devi, 25,643 feet, as the installation site. The mission began with the establishment of a series of camps along the ascent route, with the nuclear device and accompanying equipment being transported in stages to higher altitudes. The operation proceeded according to plan until October 16, 1965, when the team reached Camp IV with the nuclear device. At this critical juncture, a severe blizzard struck the mountain, creating conditions that made further progress impossible. Faced with deteriorating weather and growing safety concerns, Captain Kohli made the difficult decision to abort the mission. The team secured the RTG device to a rock outcrop at Camp IV, planning to retrieve it once weather conditions improved. This decision, made under extreme duress and with limited options, would have far-reaching consequences that continue to this day. When the recovery team returned in May 1966, led by Gurcharan Singh Bangu with 6 Sherpas, they discovered that the device had vanished. The rock ledge where it had been secured had broken away, likely due to the weight of accumulated snow and ice during the winter months. Despite extensive searching by climbers and Sherpas, no trace of the nuclear device could be found. As Captain Kohli wrote in his memoir, the Sherpas had never been used for such work. They took it in their stride and went about this new task with great sincerity. After several days of strenuous work, they all drew a blank. The disappearance of a nuclear device in one of the world's most ecologically sensitive watersheds triggered immediate alarm in both Washington and New Delhi. Following the Nanda Devi failure, the CIA and Indian intelligence mounted a second attempt on the nearby Nanda Kot Peak, 22,510 feet, in 1967. This mission proved successful, with the surveillance device operating for several months before its electronics failed. The success of this operation demonstrated the technical feasibility of the concept, while highlighting the specific challenges posed by Nanda Devi's extreme conditions. However, by this time, Advances in satellite technology were beginning to make such dangerous ground-based surveillance operations obsolete. The CIA gradually transitioned to satellite-based intelligence gathering, though the lost Nanda Devi device remained a persistent concern. For over a decade, the Nanda Devi mission remained one of the most closely guarded secrets of the Cold War. The CIA and Indian intelligence agencies maintained strict operational security, with even family members of participants unaware of the mission's true nature. The operation was so classified that, when it was eventually exposed in 1978, Indian Ministry of External Affairs officials were apparently unaware that it had been a joint Indo-US collaboration. This secrecy extended to the scientific and environmental assessment of risks posed by the lost plutonium device. No comprehensive environmental monitoring was established, and the potential consequences for the Ganges watershed were not adequately studied or addressed. The veil of secrecy surrounding the Nanda Devi mission was finally lifted in April 1978 when Outside magazine published a detailed exposé of the operation. The revelation created immediate political turmoil in India, where the mission was seen as a violation of sovereignty and environmental responsibility. The disclosure forced Prime Minister Morarji Desai to make an unprecedented statement to the Indian Parliament on April 17, 1978. Desai acknowledged that India and the United States had collaborated, at the highest level, to install nuclear-powered surveillance devices in the Himalayas, but provided limited details about the mission's scope and consequences. The parliamentary debate that followed was intense and wide-ranging, with Communist Party member Jayaturm Basu leading the questioning and several Congress opposition members supporting the inquiry. The revelation sparked massive public protests, with demonstrators carrying signs reading, "CIA quit India," and "CIA is poisoning our waters," outside the U.S. Embassy in New Delhi. The political fallout was significant, with then Foreign Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee warning that the episode might damage the recently improving ties between India and the United States. Declassified External Affairs Ministry documents reveal the extensive diplomatic efforts required to manage the crisis. In response to the public outcry, the Indian government established a scientific committee of 6 eminent scientists to assess the environmental and health risks posed by the lost plutonium device. The committee's 1978 report provided detailed technical analysis of the potential dangers, but made several recommendations that were largely ignored by subsequent governments. The scientific committee advised continuous environmental monitoring of the Nanda Devi region and systematic efforts to locate the device. However, as environmental scientist M.G.K. Menon, a member of the original committee, acknowledged decades later, the recommendations have been ignored for 3 decades. The lost device contained approximately 4 pounds of plutonium-238, a highly radioactive isotope with a half-life of 87.7 years. Unlike plutonium-239 used in nuclear weapons, plutonium-238 is primarily an alpha emitter, making it extremely dangerous if ingested or inhaled, but less hazardous as an external radiation source. The environmental concerns center on the possibility that the plutonium capsules could rupture due to corrosion, mechanical damage, or geological activity, potentially releasing radioactive material into the Rishi-Ganga glacier system. This glacier feeds into the Ganges River system, which provides water to hundreds of millions of people across northern India. Despite the scientific committee's recommendations, systematic monitoring of the Nanda Devi region for radioactive contamination has been sporadic and inadequate. A 1978 Indian Atomic Energy Commission survey found no plutonium traces in the region, but this study was limited in scope and could not definitively locate the device. More concerning were reports in 2005 suggesting that traces of plutonium-235 had been found in water samples from the region. However, subsequent analysis by independent scientists has produced conflicting results, with some finding no evidence of contamination, while others continue to express concern. Recent natural disasters in Uttarakhand, including the devastating 2021 flash floods that killed over 80 people, have renewed concerns about the lost nuclear device. While scientific investigations determined that the 2021 floods were caused by a massive rock and ice avalanche rather than nuclear contamination, the incidents highlight the potential risks posed by climate change and glacial melting in the region. As glaciers in the Himalayas continue to retreat due to global warming, there are concerns that the lost device could be exposed or its containment compromised, potentially releasing radioactive material into the watershed. Environmental activists and scientists continue to call for comprehensive monitoring and recovery efforts. The Guru Rinpoche mission and its aftermath had lasting effects on India-US intelligence cooperation. While the operation demonstrated the potential for joint intelligence activities, its failure and subsequent exposure created lasting distrust and complicated future collaborative efforts. The mission also influenced India's approach to nuclear policy and environmental security. The experience reinforced India's determination to develop independent intelligence capabilities and contributed to the expansion of R&A under RN Kaur's leadership. The Nanda Devi mission offers important lessons for contemporary intelligence operations, particularly regarding risk assessment, environmental responsibility, and operational security. The operation's failure highlights the dangers of conducting complex technical missions in extreme environments without adequate contingency planning. The long-term environmental and political consequences of the mission also demonstrate the importance of considering the broader implications of intelligence activities. Modern intelligence agencies continue to grapple with similar challenges in balancing operational objectives with environmental and ethical responsibilities. More than 5 decades after the device was lost, fundamental questions about the Nanda Devi mission remain unanswered. The exact location of the plutonium device is unknown, its current condition cannot be assessed, and the long-term environmental risks remain poorly understood. Some researchers, including American author Broughton Coburn, have suggested that the device may have been secretly retrieved by Indian intelligence agencies for reverse engineering purposes. However, no definitive evidence supports this theory, and Indian officials have consistently denied any knowledge of the device's current location. The CIA's Guru Rinpoche mission stands as one of the most remarkable and problematic covert operations of the Cold War era. Born from the intersection of geopolitical tensions, technological ambition, and mountaineering prowess, the operation demonstrates both the extraordinary lengths to which intelligence agencies would go to gather information and the unpredictable consequences of such activities. The mission's failure and its lasting environmental legacy serve as a cautionary tale about the risks of conducting complex technical operations in extreme environments without adequate contingency planning. The lost plutonium device continues to cast a shadow over the region, representing an unresolved environmental and security concern that may persist for centuries. As revealed through extensive declassified documents and testimonial evidence, the Guru Rinpoche mission exemplifies the complex relationship between intelligence gathering, environmental responsibility, and international cooperation during one of the most tense periods in modern history. The operation's legacy continues to influence discussions about intelligence ethics, environmental security, and the long-term consequences of covert activities in the modern era.